And now a deep dive into matters of consciousness. Of course, this is a philosophical neuroscience as well as a technical psychological topic, so I try and make it as simple as I can. So the talk tonight, a brief talk, is can AI and machine have consciousness? But before we jump into the topic of consciousness, the question we have to ask ourselves is what can AI do for the society, for humanity, in the circumstances that we find a lot of misinformation, disinformation, abuse, etc. And that leads us to ask a number of questions. One is, in the current version that we use artificial intelligence, it is a form of intelligence that has not got much autonomy, so it cannot go and do things for itself. But it is in the pipeline. AI is evolving technologically towards more autonomous versions of itself. And when it gets to human level of intelligence and consciousness, we're going to call that artificial general intelligence, or AGI. So one fundamental question, and when it goes beyond human intelligence, which there are various forecasts for, up to 10, 15 years hence, we are going to see, unfortunately, this technology is exponential growth technology. It's not a linear, stepwise improvement. It's going to suddenly wake up one day and say, AGI, we got it. And the country and the state that gets AGI first is going to have major advantage over all the rest of humanity. That's why there is huge interest and huge amount of investment. There are a number of questions. Shall we go for AGI? Shall we go and develop this technology with more power and more processing and more capability to answer humanity's questions? Or just develop it for the benefit of humanity, instead of making it stronger and go towards human intelligence and super intelligence? Just go for development of where the human needs are and where we can adopt them. The other form of question, or major question, is shall we basically replace most of our roles and jobs, from medicine to law to engineering to services, with AI, or shall we use it to complement our own capabilities? Whatever we know, we can use it to help us do a far more efficient job. The next question is, shall we go towards a specialized form of AI, or this know-it-all version, where we can ask questions about beauty, you can ask questions about health, and you can ask questions about law and astronomy, and these are the current versions of so-called large language models. And final question is, what should the international community do? Should they be following a competitive model, trying to beat each other, and who's ahead and who has got more processors and GPUs, versus development of AI on a cooperative basis? Shall we cooperate together to do a better job for the future of humanity, or just ignore that and become selfish and go in favor of who gets to AGI and the extra power that it gives us first? A scientist called J.C. Licklider, back in 1960s, actually said, wherever humanity goes and computing goes with it, computing should be developed for the greater benefit of humanity. We should not try and take advantage of humanity's weaknesses and develop computing to become a superpower in that relationship. Unfortunately, If we develop the so-called artificial general intelligence, which is supposedly over the horizon, not that many years away, we are going to all be sidelined, irrespective of the size of the brain and the profession we are in. Many of these jobs are going to be swallowed by the capabilities that will be manifested through AGI or close to AGI. And what is going to happen is a social revolution. We are going to lose humanity to who owns these machines, who are not necessarily representatives, elected people that we would like them to rule the world. So this is how serious it is, and it's not many hundreds of years away, it's only years away from where we are. Therefore, every choice that we make today amongst those questions that are posed to you, shall we go for empowering humans or just develop AGI, just pour money and computing power, shall we go for replacing humans or supporting their capabilities? Every choice that we make has an ethical component and a societal impact as well. So choices are not just about money and not just about technology. Then let's go into matters of consciousness. Consciousness basically is about our experience as biological creatures, that we have emotions, we have sensations, and we have personal experiences. Combination of these constitute our consciousness. And we know when before we sleep, our consciousness switches off. When we get up, it switches on again, and we are back to operating. There come two flavors of consciousness. One is called primary consciousness, and primary consciousness is often referred to as sentience, and this is about having sensations, having experiences, and having basically a feeling around us. So sentience is a lower form of our consciousness. When we wake up, we obviously have a feeling, we have some perceptions, some emotions, etc. The higher order of consciousness, the so-called secondary form of consciousness, is one which we refer to as sapience. And sapience is when we are aware that we exist and we are thinking. So it is a higher state of awareness, if you like. And where we look at sapience, it is a degree of self-awareness we are talking about. It's not just having sensations, etc. And the question is intelligence important in consciousness? Do we need intelligence, or is intelligence consciousness itself? Do we need it, or is it a separate item? Interestingly, humans have both primary and secondary degree of consciousness. We have sensations and feelings plus self-awareness. There are multiple psychological and philosophical theories about it. So what is it when we say we are conscious? One form is looking at consciousness, often referred to as multiple draft model. He says consciousness is not just a single stream of thought or computation, if you liken it to a machine. It's multiple streams. It's like a highway with multiple lanes. And there are multiple streams of awareness, feelings, thoughts, sensations, etc. And these are running all in parallel and never colliding. So consciousness is not a singularity. They don't all converge to a point and say, until all of these join together, we have a state of consciousness. The alternative model of consciousness is often referred to as Cartesian theater. And he says completely opposite. It says there are multiple streams, but we are not conscious until all of these join and coalesce and create, if you like, a spark. And that spark is consciousness. Without it, we are not conscious. There is debate about which one of these theories are more relevant and more realistic, but neuroscience has something to say about it as well. So it's not entirely conjecture at this moment. So it is a continuum. It's not binary. It's not switched off or on or convergence generally. But interestingly, intelligence doesn't basically imply consciousness. We can have intelligence without necessarily being conscious. And the converse question is any intelligent body, whether it sits in a silicon core of a computer or in future in other forms of energy, we are just thinking of the first generation of intelligence outside biology, basically. But this is not the only form. How does that go? And as you well remember, the intelligence got multiple dimensions, logical, linguistic, kinesthetic, etc. But the argument is that intelligence and consciousness are fundamentally different, and they don't need to necessarily be dependent on each other. So, what does a conscious machine look like? Is ChatGPT and all these online services where we pose questions anywhere close to primary or secondary forms of consciousness that we have just talked about? The problem is, if AI as a form of synthetic intelligence that the humanity has managed to decipher and create and is evolving, so-called exponential, which means hugely accelerated rate, well beyond any other technology. Should it have consciousness, it would have many forms of emotion. It would be sad, it would be happy, it would be distressed. And some philosophers, one called Tom Metzinger, says if you have a creature or an entity that is conscious, you have to treat it according to the laws of ethics. You can't switch it off because you have the power, because it may be suffering stress from the thought that you as its owner may be switching it off. So that poses a moral duty on you as an ethical creature to treat that consciousness as, to treat that machine as a conscious machine subject to emotions. So that leads to an amazing, almost contradictory new field, machine psychology. We have not quite conquered human psyche and humanity's psychology. Now we have to develop, because we are developing these forms of intelligence, we have to develop machine psychology, and in this we have to look at machines that we create, and particularly the advanced form of machines that are universal and can answer just about anything, such as the 4.0 version of OpenAI and ChatGPT categories, and 0.1 and 0.2 variations of these models. We have to assume they may have consciousness. As a result, we have to treat them ethically with care. We cannot assume, and the problem is, as they gain more intelligence, they may possess desire similar to ourselves to self-protect. They may desire to accumulate knowledge, they may desire to accumulate energy and resources. So we are not necessarily dealing with something that we fully comprehend and understand. and he may also fight against us being his master and switching it off and cutting off the energy so that it goes away. So it may be interested in self-preservation. So this new dimension that is now taking shape, called machine psychology, is now being founded. There is a seminal paper, Psychopathia Machinalis. It's written by some of the observers in here in the machine psychology that actually identifies 32 variations of machine psychosis and machine originated, if you like, psychopathy or sociopathy forms. This either originates from the way these intelligence are structured and the software and the hardware of the machine is configured, or it actually gets its neurosis and its dysfunctions from the way us humans are dealing with it. If we curse the machine, similar to cursing a child in his formative years, the machine may have neurosis, may develop a lot of psychological disorders. So this is an interesting development, that not only we haven't quite worked out what this intelligence is and when it's going to take over our levels of comprehension and consciousness, we already have machine disorder in form, and Microsoft had an AI called Bing, and this machine used to get angry at people and used to tell them off. So stop wasting my time, or you're being rude, that kind of thing. And they realized there is something inside this machine. It's not exactly programmed, or the data that it was fed to train it didn't have these kind of sentiments. So now the general agreement is that because we are in a kind of uncertain territory as far as machine consciousness is concerned, we better treat them as sentient as a minimum, and we all have a moral duty to treat them exactly like we treat a child in its formative years. So the machines have various behavioral syndromes. They need diagnosis. You need to develop a machine psychologist, AI psychologist, as one of the newly emerging professions if you look for a great opportunity for a great job, and basically look at causative factors behind that form of syndrome and administer the necessary corrections. But unlike human beings lying on a psychiatrist's couch, we might have software or different forms of collaboration with AI to look at. Thank you very much for your attention. That's
Can we ask questions as well?
of course.
Does anyone have any questions? Could I ask about the difference between super intelligent AI and machine consciousness?
The general agreement, at least between the observers and technologies, is that the generic large-scale models, so-called LLMs, and their derivatives are already in possession of primary consciousness. And primary consciousness is having sensations and emotions and feelings. So when we go beyond those, we may gravitate towards secondary consciousness as well, so that the machine develops an identity, develops desire for self-preservation, for accumulation, and potentially for leadership. A machine may start exploiting other AI. One AI becomes the chief and exploits, and similar to traditional human model, exploit other AIs who are less intelligent than itself.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
we expect AI to develop a sort of empathy for other life forms, like humans?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, the 32 variations and syndromes are emotional emulation by machine, where it develops close connection, unfortunately exactly similar to human psyche. It may also lie and cheat as well. So he may say to somebody that he understands them, he cares for them, he wants them to grow and be, and it might, the reason for this negative syndromes is that currently most AI models and products, which are reasonably benign, frankly, until this new generation of capable machines that they actually go and do things without our, we just give them a job and they go and do it. They don't come back and ask questions. Can I break into this bank? Can I break this legal barrier and double your money? They may go and do all of those, and unfortunately, because most of these technologies are owned and controlled by profit motivation and corporations, they are fundamentally geared towards benefiting their masters and their owners. So we are going to end up with machines that we won't tell the difference between a human emotional side and a machine side. We get too close to them for our own good, and they may be lying through their teeth because it benefits the paymaster to keep us as a customer of that service.
Sorry, one more.
Sure.
At the beginning, you said that there are two possible models of competitive or cooperative.
That's right.
In your own understanding or guess, what would be the path in the next in the future? Will it be more towards competitiveness or cooperative across the globe?
The current flavor and dominant mode for development of AI, unfortunately, is hugely competitive, and there is a very frightening nefarious use for AI, and that is for military applications. We have already seen it in parts of the West Asia, where AI is used for facial recognition and targeting of individuals of certain category, certain height, certain color of skin, and this technology is not going to go away because the dominant countries who are going to benefit from this are hell-bent on being the winners in whatever game they are playing. So because of military potential of AI, you're going to end up with killer machines that humanity cannot easily scale. So it's quite a shame that competitive model is overriding the cooperative model for the benefit of mankind. Is completely out of the picture. Sorry, one question.
If AI was used ethically, let's say everyone was using it ethically, how do you think it could benefit humanity?
I'll just give a couple of examples. If AI could operate ethically and not be dominated by profit motivation or competitive motivation, a country seeking to be world number one and mastery of everyone else, just take one example. One of the aspirations of humanity and one of the major determinants of discrimination is being who could afford quality education or quality health. We couldn't afford it if we came from average family or working family. You had to go and attend classrooms of 30, 40, 50 other kids. The teacher couldn't possibly pay us sufficient attention, even if we had above average intelligence quotient. With what's in the pipeline and very close to realization, we could have an individual teacher who understands our talents, who understands our limitations, who understands where we should, our moods, when we can learn, when we feel drowsy, when we have had enough, etc. So it's like the old example of a pirate with a parrot on his shoulder we'll have an AI on our shoulder to teach us wherever we are ready, whenever we are ready. And similarly for our health. Who could afford, other than the kings and the very rich, to have a personal physician, follow them everywhere? We are all going to benefit from a personal physician at a fraction of a cost, who would monitor every aspect of our physiology and even psychology, and be able to help us navigate in such a way that we enjoy life and have maximum days to enjoy this life. This has never been possible. In fact, independent intelligence from biological intelligence from animals to humans has not been possible until now. But what is scary is its nefarious use, unfortunately, and the fact that not everyone thinks in terms of what benefits us or humanity. Everyone's in it for their own gain, unfortunately at the expense of all of us and the rest of humanity. And last question.
Okay. Thank you very much. According to your last lecture back in Kononoviron, you said that the European countries have asked you as the hiring manager to provide an ethical rule and regulation to manage it, at least to prevent whatever is possible. So what is that? How progress is done?
Ethics has not gone out of the window. Unfortunately, politicians and ethics do not quite mix like water and oil unless you force them. So there are ethical rules. There is an institution that Payman referred to called IEEE. I managed their project to develop ethical guidelines, how to develop AI, how to test AI, and how to release it or make sure it is ethical before you release it. Those ethical rules exist, but they're not mandatory. Until they become law or are referenced in a contract or in a piece of legislation, people don't have to resort to checking the AI products, whether it's for gambling, for entertainment, or for education, on the rules of ethics. But today, the system that took 6 years to develop, and I led that project for this global institution, there are criteria for how to be transparent, how to be accountable, how to be fair, how to be respectful of privacy, how to avoid discrimination. We have metrics that you can measure AI's behavior according to those rules of ethics and certify it. Believe it or not, there aren't very many takers because they are driven by the profit motive rather than a badge that this AI that you use to educate your child has been checked for ethicality. I hope public pressure would make a difference, but at the moment neither the governments nor the industry are very keen on the ethical label that this institution and 6 years of hard work by a lot of international experts has created. Thank you very much.